Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us for the PM Fair event. We are jointly organizing this Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg chapters. This year's topic, maybe you already know, Black Swans and Unknowns. Is this an opportunity or a threat? Today, our session will be given by Pat Lucey. The topic is risk taker or risk controller. Before we move to the session, we want to thank you to our gold sponsors, Mind Manager and ProSource, for making this event happening. For your information, some housekeeping rules that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in the pmfair.org after the event in a couple of days, I assume. And everyone is joining to the Cisco WebEx environment as attendees. As attendees, your microphone is on mute and no camera. And support team, me, Hikmet, and Peter, we are switching your roles to panelists, so you can unmute yourself, open the video if you want. Please use chat screen on the right-hand side for your questions or for more information to the speaker. One reminder, please check to everyone option in the chat box. Otherwise, you can, most of the time, host or a specific person gets the chat, so everyone will not be able to see it for your information. For the PDU code, you see it on the screen, but I will, during the session, I will paste this information to the chat box as well, and how you are going to claim the PDU. There is a chance to win the one-year free membership from the chapter you belong to, Netherlands, Belgium, or Benelux, or Luxembourg. Please stay online, and at the end of the event, as we agreed with Pat, the best question will get the prize. So back to our session. Pat Lucey is the CEO and co-founder of Aspira, a technology and consulting company with offices in Ireland, Netherlands, and United Arab Emirates. Pat is also the director and past president of the PMI Ireland chapter. And also in 2020, this year, he has been awarded, he has been selected as a finalist in EY Entrepreneur of the Year program. Pat, I will switch your role to presenter, and floor is yours. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, Hikmet, for the introduction.
Yep. Pat, you are the presenter.
I can now share. Okay.
Yes.
I'll share my screen, and then we'll get going. So good evening, everybody. Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you today. And congratulations on putting on a virtual event. I know it's a lot tougher to run events and to get the same level of engagement, but from what I hear, you've had a very successful few days. So congratulations on that. So hopefully we can make the last session today of interest to you. What I want to talk about is the dual role. So as Hikmet mentioned, I'm a project manager. So I have my PMP and my ACP and my IPMA certification and various other things. But I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also somebody who has founded 2 or 3 businesses at this stage, and some have gone well, some haven't gone as well. And there's the whole risk-taking element to that as well that we'll talk about. So really, it's at times I think I have a split personality, because the project manager part of me wants to avoid risk and minimize risk and keep things as smooth and predictable as possible. But then the entrepreneur side of me gets bored if everything is tipping along, going along smoothly. I want to take a risk. I want to grow. I want global domination. Okay, so I easily rub my hands together and plan to dominate the world. And I take risks. You know, and I take risks that cost money and put my house at risk and my family's roof over their head. And why the hell do I do it, right? And then I flip back to being a project manager and saying, how can I minimize that risk? So it's an interesting dynamic, I think. Do we take risk or do we manage risk? risk taker or risk controller. And I thought it might be useful just to talk through with a bunch of my PMI friends, you know, the thought process going on, and see how I manage to reconcile the split personality, or if I do manage it. So let's move on a bit. I guess what I've realized now is 13 years since we set up Aspira. What I've realized is I never get to the point where I'm totally happy with either one or the other. I'm always flipping between them. So I think whatever the day that I think I've got it sorted is probably the day that I'm in big trouble. Usually I think we're taking too much risk or we're not taking enough risk, and it just flips from day to day. Certainly with the COVID-19 impact right now, we're trying to decide, well, what will we do with our offices? We have big offices that are sitting mostly empty. So do I sign a new lease for a smaller office? Do I plan that we're going to take on loads of new business and get bigger offices? Even decisions like that, you have to figure out which side of the personality I'm going with, the risk avoider or the risk taker. So just to start off, I want you to try using Menti with me, and we'll see if I can make sure you guys are still awake. I haven't put you to sleep this early. So I want you to take a look at that picture of that glass of water, and I want you to decide if you think that glass is half full, half empty, or consuming twice the resources necessary to contain the liquid. Okay, so I'm giving you three options. If you go to menti.com on your smartphone and use the code 4049983, let's see what people have to say. So this is Menti. We've got a vote for half empty and half full. Let's see if anybody else has got to log in there. A few half fulls.
Can you repeat the code?
Sure. The code is 4049983. It's appearing up at the top of the screen there. 4049983. Okay. Thank you. Thanks to those of you who have voted. So we can see the winner, followed by consuming twice the resources necessary, and not many half empty and not many none of the above. Okay, let me talk through those answers and see what they mean. If you said half full, that means you're an entrepreneur. You're positive, you're an optimist, you see the possibilities. So congratulations, we have 15 entrepreneurs here. You can immediately pack in your day job and go off and set up a business, right? Success guaranteed. For those of you who said half empty, the three people, I would say, well, clearly you're project managers. You've identified what's missing. You've done your gap analysis, right? You've highlighted that we've got a problem here. Okay, so you're identified the risk, and you've taken the view as to what needs to be done. So congratulations, you're project managers. For the 5 people who said that we're consuming twice the resources necessary to contain the liquid, well, congratulations. Clearly you are certified PMPs, because you have learned how to make something simple sound more complicated, and you've got the language and it sounds very official. So that's straight from the PMBOK, right? I love it. So congratulations, you're certified PMs. And 2 people said none of the above. So if the 2 people who said none of the above said that because really their focus was on the fact that there was a bug in that glass, well then you're neither a project manager nor an entrepreneur, because both entrepreneurs and project managers would say that's not a bug, that's an extra source of protein, it's a feature, it's a positive. So you must be a health and safety professional if you voted that. Okay, that's That's all I can say. So thank you for, now that's just a bit of fun, and to see if you guys can engage. And I'm delighted to see Saskia is going to become an entrepreneur now and set up her own business. So that's great news. Just to give you my background. So I grew up in a place on the west coast of Ireland, in Limerick. Both my parents they never got the chance to go to secondary school. When they were very young, they had to go work and they had to emigrate and go to the UK to find a job. This was in the 50s when the Irish economy was terrible. And when they came back, they made some money, came back to Ireland, and they built this shop, restaurant, petrol station, which is where I was born and where I grew up. So until I went to college, this was what I knew. My father, who worked 364 days a year, my mother, who did all the accounts and the work in the background, extremely hardworking, extremely work ethic. And for me, it was normal that you would work 7 days a week, that you would start at 7, that you'd finish at 9:30 in the evening. This was what we grew up with, this is what we knew. So whether it was serving petrol or washing dishes or doing whatever, I guess I saw entrepreneurship around me, though I didn't realize what the word meant. Then, after college, I did electronic engineering and went to work for Siemens in Munich and worked there for a year. And then the Irish economy was improving, so I came back to Ireland and worked for Motorola and moved to Cork on the south coast, which is where I'm talking to you from today. So Motorola were a great innovator. They were the people who invented the mobile phone. And that facility in Ireland was the biggest software facility in the country. We had, at one stage, 650 software engineers working there. And I spent 17 years working with Motorola, went in as a junior engineer, and ended up being responsible for 1,100 people across 9 countries delivering projects all over the globe. So it was a great place to go to get experience in a multinational. But then in 2007, Motorola decided, bye-bye Ireland. Okay? They decided they were closing the facility there, and everybody lost their job. So that was a shock, right? Because I hadn't worked anywhere else except Motorola for 17 years. And as I was clearing out my desk, I found the CV, the resume that I had sent in 17 years earlier, right, as a young engineer, not, only a year or two out of college. And in that CV was this line. I had said, at some stage, I'm interested in getting into management and perhaps even set up my own company. And I had done that as a 23-year-old, I think. And 17 years later, I said, geez, I hadn't even thought about that. I hadn't even thought about setting up a business. I was too busy with my nose to the ground trying to deliver projects for Motorola. So at this stage, I felt, well, if I don't do it now, I probably will never do it. So I contacted some of my colleagues in Motorola to see if any of them had the appetite to, instead of paying off their mortgage, to take their redundancy payment from Motorola and instead use it to set up a business with me. And Colm Horgan, who some of you will know from the PMI, Colm had the same idea as me, and we decided together that we would set up Aspira. So we did that in 2007, 13 years ago. And in our first year, or our first day, we hired 4 other people from Motorola to start working with us. So on day 1, there were 6 of us, and that's what we started. And we started as a technology company and a project management company. So the 3 of those people in the picture were software developers, and the other 3 of us were project managers. The idea was the project managers would earn some money while the software developers spent the money in developing a product. We had the idea of an enterprise project management product that we were building. So that's how we started, 2007. Today, this is where we are. We've grown from the initial 6 people up to 160. We are currently, we have a list of 227 active customers spread across 24 countries. Our headquarters is still in Cork. We've also opened offices in Dublin, Amsterdam, Abu Dhabi, and we have a small team in the UK. What we do has changed a bit. So we still do software development, and we still do project management services. We also do project management training. We bought another company, an IT company, 4 years ago. So we deliver managed IT services as well. So this is the mix of services that we do. And this is our sales story since we started. So you can see we started off well with growth, but then 2009 came and we dropped down. There was a big recession, 2008, 2009, and that hit very, very hard in Ireland. We recovered in 2010, and since then we've had growth every year, thankfully. We're also projecting growth this year, despite the impact of COVID-19. We won't grow by as much as we had planned, but we will still grow this year. So that's just to give you an idea of what the company is like now and what we do. Okay, question for you, a hypothetical question for you again. I'll get you to use Menti again using the same thing. I want you to imagine that you have acquired a considerable sum of money. Maybe a rich relative left you money in their will. Maybe you've won some money on the lottery. But whatever it is, it's not enough to retire on. You need to double that money to retire. Okay? Which of these would you choose to do? Would you take your money and place it all on one hand of blackjack? Would you take that money and put it on one throw of the dice in craps? Or would you take that money and be like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Kylie Jenner and use it to set up a business and hope that you'll be able to double your money or increase your wealth through your ownership of that business? So I ask you to vote again. Let me move on to the question in Menti. So you've got three options. If you have to choose one of them, I'm not giving you the option to keep the money in your pocket. You either have to play blackjack, roll the dice and craps, or start up a business. I'm interested to see what you do. Okay, I wasn't expecting 100%. Okay, somebody went for the blackjack. Okay. I love going to Vegas, so whoever that person is, let me know. We can go to Vegas. Okay, so we have 95% plus of people are saying that they would start up a business. Okay, I find that interesting. Okay, 21-1. So let's just analyze that result. Okay, so only one person said they would choose blackjack, and that person would be correct because there's only a 47% chance of winning. So the odds are against you. One hand of blackjack, it's more likely you'll lose everything than you'll double your money. Nobody said craps, which is smart because the odds of winning with one roll of the dice in craps are actually less than blackjack. It's just 46%. So again, good decision. What do you think the odds of winning if you start your own business are? Do you think it's higher or lower than 46, 47%? This is where I need a little drum roll. So internationally, the statistics are that you have a 5 to 10% chance of success when you start up your business. And the difference between the 5 and the 10 depends on how you define success. So one definition is you make as much money as you would have made if you stayed in employment. And the other is that you increase it by a higher factor. Okay. So when you look at the statistics, it would actually seem, strangely enough, that it's a smarter decision to roll the dice or to play blackjack than to set up your business. But yet, when I ask this question, usually I get a bit more mix, but certainly people feel it's better to set up a business. And I see a comment saying it would depend on the type of business. So why do people think that? So I think there are two reasons why they think it. I think the number one reason is there's a feeling that, well, I have no control if I gamble. It's in the God's hands. At least if I set up a business, I have control of it. Okay? So there's that sense of control. That's one reason. And I think the second reason is but I have a bright idea. I have I have had a light bulb moment, and I have this great idea that's going to make a huge difference, and it will be successful because it's such a great idea. And in my personal experience, I'm afraid that neither of those things are very true. I think that the idea that you have control is an illusion. You have as much control at the blackjack table as you have when you set up your business. And the idea that you have a bright idea, well, everybody who sets up a business thinks they have a great idea. Nobody sets up a business saying, oh, this idea isn't much good, but hey, what the hell, I'll try it anyway. Okay, so everybody thinks they have a good idea, but still 90% of them don't succeed. So why is that? I think when people imagine setting up a business, this is the type of journey they imagine that they're going to embark upon. Calm water, sunny sky, the world is their oyster. Certainly, I had this view. When the 23-year-old version of me said I'd like to set up a business, this is what I had in mind. Now that I've been through it for the last 13 years, this is more like the reality. Okay. Obstacles occur. You don't have control. If I look back at the last 13 years and list some of the things that happened totally outside your control, that has a massive impact on your business. Back in 2008, the Irish economy had to be bailed out by the IMF. Like, worst recession ever. Like, we were 60-something billion in debt. That had a huge impact. A lot of our customers then were government clients. The government, not only did they stop buying software, they stopped paying for the maintenance of software. That's why we had the big dip. Other things, Brexit, right? Who predicted Brexit? Not me. We were planning to open a UK office just before then, and we put that on hold. Skills shortages, tariff wars, COVID-19, right? These are all massive things that can have a big impact on you. So I'm telling you these things not to depress you and not to make you decide that you're never going to set up a business, but just to flag this idea that you have control. Yes, you have control within your four walls, but really it's like you're organizing what you can, but there's a huge global environment going on that you have no control of. But there are ways you can increase your chances of success. So I'll do one more thing with Menti, and what I've done is I've listed 10 factors that I believe contribute to entrepreneurial success. So 10 things that you need to be successful in starting and growing a business. And what I'd like you to do is, in Menti, it lets you choose which one do you think is the most important, put that in number 1. Which one is number 2? You can go all the way down to number 10 if you want, or you can just stop after a few, whatever you prefer. Just remember to press submit when you're done. So I will let you see the list of 10 things now. Menti. So here we go, and I put them in roughly alphabetical order, but then I got lazy. So the business idea, so the brainwave you had, is that the most important thing? You're focusing on the client and what clients need. Luck, your willingness to work hard, your team, assuming you have a team of people, you're not just by yourself. Support from your family, your project management skills, your persistence, your willingness to stick in there when going gets tough. Intelligence. By intelligence, I mean your IQ, right? Your smarts. Financial backing is another one. How important is that? So I'll give people a chance to, it takes a little bit longer if you're doing a lot of them, give you a chance to choose some of those. And then we'll see. This is interesting to me to see what people think is the most important. Okay. Thank you for submitting them. Each one of them plays a role, right? So you need a degree of all of them. to be successful? Which ones are the most important? Okay, I think we've had most people completed. Thank you. I reckon I can write a paper based on this intelligence now. I have to write a paper for a future conference. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of the answer so I can have our collective view together, so I can talk to it. Okay, so number 1, people think client focus. Number 2, business idea. I'm very interested to see number 10, given that this is a team of project managers. Okay, so you guys think project management is just for what? For the public service or for multinationals? You don't think it's a big factor in entrepreneurial companies? That's interesting. Nor do you need much intelligence. Okay. So client focus, business idea, almost neck and neck. And financial backing. Okay. Thank you for doing that. I want to show you now what I believe the order those 10 are. This is what I think. And of course, as a project manager, I couldn't just list them 1 to 10. I had to do a Pareto chart showing what percentage of the total each one contributes. Sorry, I'm just a total nerd for Excel. Factor that is most important for success is luck. Any successful entrepreneur that I've met eventually admits that they were lucky. They had some lucky break with a customer, and they tried something that failed, and then they luckily bumped into someone there that was interested in what they did. Luck is a huge factor. But luck versus hard work, right? It's not very intellectually satisfying to say, if somebody says, what's the key thing? You say, luck. People don't like that, right? People aren't happy to hear that. They're much happier to hear hard work and persistence and stuff like this, because you've no control over luck, right? You can do the other things. But the point, I believe, is there are lots of companies. When Motorola shut down, there were 11 different companies started off. Only 3 of them survived. Okay. And it was the other 8 didn't shut down because people didn't work hard. They did work hard. There were smart people who worked hard, had good ideas, but they didn't get the breaks. Okay, so luck is a key factor. But each one of those, for me, I put financial backing down as the lowest in my particular case, because we had the money from our redundancy to pay for the company. Otherwise, it would be much higher up. So I know that most of you put it up a lot higher. So I'm interested though in project management, okay, because this group put project management at number 10. I consider project management to be just as important as family support. I think it's the secret sauce that many entrepreneurs don't realize is so important. And I'll come back and talk about that in a few minutes. First, let me go back to the luck and the hard work question. I gave a talk a couple of years ago to a group, and in the Q&A they asked me which is more important. It wasn't about this topic, it was a different topic, but they asked me what's more important to be successful? Is it hard work or luck? And I said luck, and they weren't happy, right? Nobody was happy. Nobody likes to hear that, but anyway, that's what I believe, so I said it. And afterwards, the guy came up to me who had asked me the question and said, Pat, you're wrong. And I remembered his words. He said to me, hard work puts you where good luck can find you. And I think I admitted he was dead on. That is correct. Okay? I don't know if any of you are football fans, but if you're a footballer and you're playing midfield and you make a run into the box, hoping the ball will come across to you, and if it doesn't come, and if you make 19 runs like that in a game and the ball never comes near you, okay, the 20th time, are you going to run or are you going to give up? Well, that 20th time, if you run and the ball comes across and it hits off your knee and goes into the goal, that was luck. It was a lucky goal. but it would never have happened if you hadn't put in the hard work to make it happen. So I love this quote, and I use this quote now because it is hard work. It's through hard work that you'll become lucky. Luck will find you. Right. So, and finally, I was able to reconcile this intellectual problem of luck versus hard work. Right, they come together. Now, next question is, when I talk about the lack of control.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see the business idea all at the bottom. I would almost assume that without a solid business idea, forget about everything.
Yeah, that's another one that people argue with me about. But again, I would say to you, everybody thinks, like, I remember once I shared the statistic that between 5 and 10% of entrepreneurs are successful. And I remember somebody saying to me in the audience, well, yeah, it might be 5 or 10%, but I have a really good idea. So I would be like 90% likely to succeed. I'm saying, but everybody has a good idea. Like, everybody thinks they have a good idea. If you talk to venture capital companies, the thing that they look for in companies to invest, of course they want a good idea, but they will invest in an excellent management team with an average idea faster than they will invest in an average team who have a brainwave, because it's the ability to execute that makes the huge difference. Like, we have loads of ideas that never get anywhere.
Yeah.
But I understand the point, and a lot of people feel that way as well. Okay, I'm going to jump back to this, and we do have time for general Q&A as well at the end that we're gonna have. So I talked about the fact that there's a lack of control when you're running your business. All kinds of things can happen, from Brexit to COVID-19. So wouldn't it be great if there was some system, some methodology that allowed project managers to predict these changes and to figure out how to control and to plan? Well, of course, the good news is us project managers know there is that technique, right? And it's called project management. So I found that when I went into the entrepreneurial experience, lots of other business startups, they weren't doing any form of project management. And the reason we started doing training was because we started to train some of our fellow entrepreneurs how to use some of the project management tools to help them run their business. So take scope. When you start off a business, there's a tendency to do anything. I'll cut people's grass, I'll wash their cars, I'll clean their windows, if they pay me. You're just desperate to find a customer, any customer. Whereas as project managers, we know it's really important to define clearly what your objectives are and then stick to that, deliver against those objectives. And when you do take on a project for a customer, specify not just the scope, but also how you will make changes to the scope. I would say, of the startups that go bust, in my experience, about half of them go bust because they can't manage scope. They get a customer, they get an agreement, and then the customer screws them afterwards by changing scope. And they've no way of, they're in too deep, they can't go backwards. So they keep going and they eventually run out of cash. So scope management, change requests, all that boring stuff is vital when you're running a startup business. Schedules. So as project managers, we like to have our plans and our milestones laid out. If you don't have that kind of discipline, what happens is those milestones just get pushed and pushed and pushed, and at the end you miss your deadline and there's lots of crisis. And if you're a startup and you're trying to work with enterprise clients like we are, you can't afford to do this. You've got to give them confidence that you'll deliver when you say you'll deliver. So by having the discipline of good scheduling and good statusing of your scheduling and schedule control, that has a huge impact when you're dealing with enterprise clients. On cost, as project managers, we know that time means money, and we're able to evaluate both. A simple tool that we use in project management that is also very applicable for entrepreneurs is the 3-point estimation. Very quickly, we when we work with our team to say, we want this new initiative, what's best case cost, what's the worst case cost, what's the most likely. So just doing a simple 3-point estimate of project costs and duration is a simple tool, but it's a very effective tool. It helps you avoid committing to something that's impossible. There's always pressure to say yes to the impossible. In terms of quality, when you're starting off a business, you're not going to have any certifications. You're not going to have a track record. You can't say to your clients, we're at the MMI level 5. So instead, what you have to do is intensely focus on your customers, understand what your customers need and how they're going to use your product or service and how you can make that an excellent experience for them. So the mantra that I always share with the team is you've got to eat with your customers, you've got to drink with your customers, and you've got to sleep with your customers' interests in mind. Just to make sure we're not going anywhere we shouldn't go here. We always keep our ethics, right? So eat, drink, sleep with customer in mind. Focus on them. It's the key thing to do for quality. So back to risk. I spoke about risk earlier. So in an entrepreneurial organization, you've got to balance risk with reward. If you are looking to have a big reward, if you're taking a big gamble and looking to make a lot of money, make a lot of customers happy, well then to balance that, there's going to be bigger risk on the left. The converse is true. If you're seeking to run a business with zero risk, chances are there's not going to be much reward. Okay, so if you are going after the big reward, that will require big risk. If it was easy to do, everybody would do it. You're familiar with risk utility theory. Okay, the risk averse plays safe, and that's where the project manager in me fits in, trying to control that risk. The entrepreneur in me is risk seeking. I want to seize the day, take on new opportunity. So I would say the entrepreneurial project manager, the attempt to blend both, tries to move closer to the risk neutral, or at least to managing that risk, to making calculated decisions. I will take risk, but I like to know how much risk I'm taking and see if I'm comfortable with that level of risk. Can I afford to take that level of risk? So I think I've talked a bit about how project management skills help as an entrepreneur. I think having those skills definitely helps to run a business and to grow a business sustainably. I just want to flip around now to the other side of the coin for 5 minutes and say, as a project manager, are there some elements from the entrepreneur's tool set that would help you to be an entrepreneurial project manager? So I would say there are 3 things. I'm going to take a look again exactly at the definition of risk. I'm going to remind you of what most people want from a project manager, and then talk about how you can be decisive and take control, even in a world that's full of uncertainty and ambiguity, because that's what you want from entrepreneurial project managers. So first, risk. The PMBOK guide describes risk as an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on a project's objectives. I know a bunch of you have got your PMP, you know this. But when we're running our projects in real life, how often do we spend time thinking about the positive risks? Not very often. Usually, if I say there's a risk in the project, people don't go, hooray, great news, you've got a risk, it's probably positive. No, they don't. They go, oh no, what's gone wrong? What's going to happen? Or, what's the negative? So we tend to think about risk all the time as a negative. So I'm asking you to be more entrepreneurial, just to remember that positive risks are recognized in the PMBOK. Okay? If you do SWOT analysis, 2 of the 4 things there are risks. Which 2? Clearly, threats are risks. Okay, everybody can agree to that. And clearly, strengths are not risks. Okay? Strengths are positive assets that we have. So which of the other two is a risk? Is a weakness a risk, or is an opportunity a risk? And the answer is, drum roll, opportunities are risks. Opportunities are positive risks. There are possible things that might happen that will be good, in this case for your business. Okay. Threats are negative risks, things that might happen that will be bad for your business. Where strengths and weaknesses are, they're not possibilities, they're factual things that either exist. You have this strength, it's an asset, or you have this weakness, which is a liability. Okay. Maybe you can do something about the weakness and you can address it. It's not something that's a potential risk, it's a factual thing. Okay, so that's the first thing. Remember that risk can be positive. Second thing, I encourage project managers to think, well, what do people want from project managers? Do they want us to use the latest and best methodologies? Do they want us to use optimized processes? Or do they want us to use the latest and greatest tools, enterprise EPMS tools that we're so fond of? But the main thing that they want from us is to get stuff done. Okay? It's not to be the world's greatest PMO. It's not to be, producing beautiful charts and graphs. It's to get stuff done. That's what they want from us. And we know that to get stuff done, that means we need good methodologies, we need streamlined processes, and we need good tools. But they are the means to get it done, not the end. Sometimes when I go to project management conferences, we have a tendency to get too excited about the process and not pay enough attention to the outcome, to the benefit. And if you're an entrepreneur, right, it's the outcome that determines whether you can feed your children or not. Okay, that's what you focus on. You get the outcome. And as PMs, I think we need to remember that. Okay, we should try not to get too excited about the how. The how is our job. It's up to us to get the job done as project managers. But the way people will evaluate us is whether we get it done. Okay. The third one is, in a world that's, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, it can be hard sometimes to be decisive. It can be hard to take control. In some ways, it's easier for an entrepreneur, because if I decide we're going to take a certain direction, that's it. I can just say, this is what we're doing. Okay? And I'm taking all the risk. I don't have to ask anybody for permission. Whereas as a project manager, I might not have that autonomy. I need to convince people to go with me. So my advice to project managers is, if you're faced with lots of options and it's very hard to figure out which option to go with, you need to step up and show leadership. Okay? So you need to choose, of the various options, I would say choose a small subset that you believe make the most sense, the most viable options, right? Making assumptions and with your best, making the best predictions that you can, and give a recommendation. I don't expect project managers to have all the answers, but I do expect them to evaluate a situation, give viable options, and make the recommendation. I may or may not go with the recommendation. I may go for a different direction, but if they do those things, then they're showing me that they're taking control, they're taking ownership, and they're showing leadership, which is what people want from an entrepreneurial project manager. Okay, so at the start, I talked about wearing those two hats. In my experience, while it never blends into one, both sides are very important, and I think they complement each other. I think the entrepreneurial skills can be a better project manager, and I know for a fact that the project management skills and tool set helps to build a successful business. So I'd encourage you to try to implement both aspects of it. And if you thought I was being negative earlier, talking about the journey, I would say by using some of the project management tools, identifying the risks, that will help you identify the obstacles in front of you and avoid them. By focusing on the outcome and the benefit, it helps you see the shore. And by using the systems, using the tools, communicating with your team, it will help you get through the different storms that will come your way and will help you to reach the promised land. And I can say I am enjoying my role since setting up Aspira and running the company and expanding to different countries. I love what I do. I am really happy that Motorola decided to shut down, because I probably never would have left. I was happy there too, but what I'm doing now, I've learned so much more. Every day is something different, and it's a fantastic role to be in. So I can heartily recommend it. And if any of you are thinking of setting up something, more than happy to chat to you or talk to you at some point. We're going to switch over to Q&A. Just before we do, I wanted to say thank you for your time. You've been very good. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Vel. If anybody wants to contact me, my email address is there. And you can get me on LinkedIn as well. I enjoy chatting to people and sharing ideas, so I'm very happy to do that. So I will stop sharing now, I think, and see if anybody has questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Pat. And I'm going to be your MC for the Q&A part before I hand back the statement to close. So it's not going to, if anybody's seen Hard Talk on BBC, then you know what's going to happen next. So we've got some questions, and I'd just like to pose those to you, Pat, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. And everybody else can just load up some more. First, a couple of interesting ones. Is it true that this session was originally called PMI's Got Talent, but the name had to be changed when you were made the keynote speaker?
Yes, that is true, Peter. That is totally true. My lack of talent, though, is compensated by the excellence of the people who joined the call. So, you know, I think we're okay.
Excellent. Okay, next question is multiple choice, and you've got two choices here, Pat. You can choose to answer question 1 or question 2. You ready? Okay, I'll do both. Is it true you do great Belgian jokes? And if so, tell us one. Okay, so it's not true that I do great Belgian jokes. At the PMI event last year, where the guys hosted us in Brussels, we had a fantastic couple of days, and I told my Belgian joke, and then afterwards realized it was a pun that very few people actually get the joke, and those who did get the joke were disgusted by it. So I've decided to stop telling my Belgian jokes now. Okay, so you won't do it in Flemish. All right, excellent. What is your favorite country in the Benelux? I think, yes, the Benelux is a great country. It's a great country. The answer was? Okay, you guys from the UK just need to work out your geography a bit better, right? Well, we have a base in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, so that's fantastic. Obviously, Belgium, Brussels, the seat of the European Parliament, so we love that. And I had the privilege of visiting Luxembourg when I was in my early 20s and have some great memories there, so I love them all. Excellent, very politically correct. Well done, Pat. Okay, I'm going to go through the other more sensible questions. There was a question that says, does Aspire's name have a special meaning? Well, it does. So when we set up the company, we were 6 people in an office in Cork, but from day one, we aspired to global impact. So from day one, we said we want to have a global impact and a global presence. And we aspired to be an Irish-owned multinational company. And because we said that so many times, we decided to call ourselves Aspira to remind everybody that we aspire to greater things. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, and Saskia told a wonderful story there online. So one about in Luxembourg, they connected the PMI volunteers with entrepreneurs and small companies to manage risks and issues and build resilience when COVID-19 hit. So that's fantastic. Brilliant. Next one that we had was Eddie, and you covered that already because Eddie spoke during the session. So that was great. Thank you, Eddie. And Kadar said, do you think project management is the foundation for going on to become an entrepreneur? So the honest answer is no, I don't. Much like the mentee here, most people don't see project management as being a key skill for entrepreneurs. And I think most project managers don't see themselves as entrepreneurs. But the flip side is the skills that project managers have. Imagine you're setting up a business. You have to write a business plan. You have to come up with a budget, figure out how you do your costing. You have to set deadlines.
for delivery to customers. It's project management. So there's a huge overlap between those skills, but most people don't see it. And most people who are entrepreneurs don't come from a project management background. I think if more project managers did become entrepreneurs, that 5 or 10% success rate would shoot up because we would be much better at it.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question, one from me. Who's the role model entrepreneur for you? And I'm going to give you 4 options. Is it Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Chuck Feeney, or another?
So another, and the person that I admire, I don't think most people would call him an entrepreneur. It's Warren Buffett. So he's someone who doesn't take big risks, but he takes calculated risks, and he generates wealth not just for himself, but for stakeholders around him and the people who invest in him and trust him. So I would much rather be like him than like Elon Musk, who was amazingly successful, but oh my God, I couldn't sleep at night if I had that much risk going on. Could never handle it. My appetite for risk, you see, my project manager would click in, I could never handle all that risk that he deals with.
Question from Brian, and he's very shy, so he's just typed it. Feel free to switch off your mute there, and you can ask it, Brian, if you want.
Which one? Are all 6 of the original employees still working for Aspira?
No, they're not. So by the end of our first year, 2007, we had 11 employees. And when we had our 10-year celebration, 8 of the 11 were still working for us, and the other 3 came back and joined us for the party as well. So we haven't kept all of them. One of them actually is now a customer of ours. She went and joined another company and then brought us in to deliver to them. So we have kept most of the people, but not quite all of them. One of the guys went off to the Czech Republic. Another guy went and joined a competitor here in Ireland. But we have managed to keep people, and they've been fantastic. The fact that they were willing to they could have gone and worked for IBM. They could have worked for VMware, but they chose to come and work with a startup. So I feel tremendous loyalty to those guys. You know, they trusted us, they stuck with us during the tough times. So it's amazing. It's an amazing team. It isn't the leader, it's the people who come with you that really make the difference, I think. So it'd be fantastic.
And you started because Motorola closed.
Yes.
And what about people? I mean, many of us work for large corporations now. Jumping ship, that's quite a big move.
Absolutely, and I think towards the end, I would never have had the courage to jump ship. I was very well thinking about it. I was very focused on my job with Motorola, a senior job, lots of responsibility, lots of project deliverables. I didn't have time to dream about setting up a business. And I wouldn't have had the courage. I have a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage and all that. So when Motorola decided to make us redundant, that changed things, because now the decision, it was an easier decision. And the fact that I had been there for 17 years meant I had some money coming from them, and I used that to set up the company. So it gave me some cash. It lowered the barrier to entry for me. And the other thing it gave me was hundreds of former colleagues who have now, we now have 48 ex-Motorola people working for us. So a lot of them, we hired the good ones, plus Peter, I guess, as well as the good ones. And a lot of our clients are people who used to work with me in Motorola. They went working in different companies, and pick up the phone and say, hey, will you work? Any chance you'll introduce me? And people have been fantastic, really good about doing it. So yeah, sometimes I get invited by the Irish state body to talk to people who are thinking about becoming entrepreneur. But I would share with them the same statistic I showed you. Only 5 to 10% are successful. So if you have a great job and a big mortgage, just stay where you are, right? Don't, I'm not saying it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Then the Irish government asked me to stop talking to people because I was They want everybody becoming an entrepreneur, but they want it because they care about the 10% who will be successful. They forget about the 90% who now can't afford their house, you know. So I say to people, it is great. It's not for everyone, but you should look at it, evaluate it, make a risk-based decision. I can recommend it, but you should go in with your eyes open.
In the back of my head, I'm waiting for my Motorola moment, and it sounds like that's what you're recommending.
Well, like I have great admiration. I'm involved this year in the Entrepreneur of the Year competition, and I feel a bit of a fraud because I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I set up the company because I was made redundant. Some of the people that I'm in the competition they're like Elon Musk, you know, they've done crazy things. As we were all talking, I felt like going, oh my God, I just should stand up and applaud, you know, the level of risk that they took. I'm just not comfortable with that level of risk. So it really depends on your own circumstances and your own appetite for risk, I think.
Question from Dirk. What are your next steps in life? Any new things?
I missed the second part. What are the next steps?
What are your next steps in life? Any new things?
Yeah, so I guess the new things for the last 2 years are we opened our office and our business in the Netherlands. We've opened, set up a team in the UAE. I'm hoping that by the end of this month, we'll be announcing a new contract and setting up a team in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. So like we aim to grow. COVID-19 has had an impact, but some aspects have reduced, but then other aspects have got bigger. So we're trying to keep growing. So my goal is, right now we have a global impact, but I want us to have a global presence. I want us to have offices in all continents in the next 5 years.
Excellent. If there's any more final...
Yeah, I have a question. You said remarkably that your company hasn't really suffered that much from COVID. So you have less growth, but you're still expecting growth. So did you reach that result by doing something drastically different when the crisis happens? Or are you just, is this your part of luck?
The biggest part of the answer there is luck. Okay, in keeping with my earlier theme, it's luck. And the reason it's luck, for 13 years, I've been told by advisors that I should focus on one niche, one industry segment, and really focus on them, because it's easier to describe what you do. It's easier to market. It's easier to focus your message. But I have ignored them. And like we work in energy, utilities, banking, pharma, medical, retail. Last year, we made a decision to focus in the aviation sector. So we put a lot of time and effort and built some new clients, airlines and aircraft leasing companies. So when COVID hit, what was the first thing that we lost? Airline and aviation stopped. But we were lucky because some of our pharma clients, some of our medical device clients and some of our banking clients went crazy busy. So we lost in some, we gained in others. So the biggest reason that we've continued to grow is because we're very diverse. We have lots of different customers. And because a lot of what we do is sell project management services, project management applies to everyone. So that's why we're so diverse. So that's the main reason. Yes, we did have to change. Like, for example, our training business, all face-to-face training just stopped and we had to do that. But as a percentage, that's a much smaller piece of the pie. The biggest reason we're still growing is because we were lucky enough to have a wide base.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Saskia. Again, anybody who's got a question, we might have a moment for one more.
There was one question I posted, Peter, you might like to ask.
Oh no, I think, Brian, you've had your limit, and you will be banned from future events after that question. Will Pat Lucey, will Peter Ryan be looking for a new job after this call?
I think Peter has proven himself to be unemployable, so there's no point in him looking for a job.
Thank you. And then the final question, and For me, an entrepreneurial PM's mindset is analogous to that of a CEO. What is the single biggest difference between those two?
So I'm not sure if I caught that. You're saying an entrepreneurial mindset is...
So I looked it up before this session. I looked up and somebody wrote some papers on this topic, and an entrepreneurial PM, yeah, we talk about agile PMs now, entrepreneurial PMs, mindset is analogous, is similar to a CEO. My question to you is, what would you say is the real fundamental difference? Having been an entrepreneurial project manager, but also CEO, what's the key one difference?
Yeah, so the difference between them, because I would agree that they're quite similar. Like in both, you have to, a CEO has to both manage and lead, right? So they have to make sure that you're compliant with regulatory requirements and your taxes are paid and all that kind of stuff, but has to demonstrate leadership to the team. And I think the entrepreneurial PM is quite similar. I guess the difference is the scope of the role. So the CEO has a broader scope. So there might be multiple programs, portfolios going on that the CEO has to be accountable for across the board. Whereas an entrepreneurial PM can focus on their specific project and not have to worry about some of the other less sexy aspects of what it takes to run a business.
Excellent, thank you very much. And unless I've missed any questions, Hikmet or anybody, then I'm going to close it there, if that's all right. And thank you very much. Now, Pat, would you like the stress of being able to choose the best question of today, or would you like me to...
I think they were all lovely questions, so you could choose, Peter.
Well, it's for me, it's down to Saskia and Kadar. I think there were some excellent questions and statements made, and I'm going to go with Kadar. He linked the whole topic today through that one question, which is, do you think project management is the foundation for becoming an entrepreneur? And we're going to give it to Kadar, and that gives him free chapter membership for his next renewal.
Congratulations. Well done.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you all. I know it's getting late on a Friday afternoon now, Friday evening. So I've been chatting with you and seeing some familiar faces again. Hope you're all staying safe and keeping well. And thank you very much for giving me the chance to chat to you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
I also want to thank everyone joining the session, to Peter helping me for hosting, Pat, wonderful presentation, Brian, Saskia, all the cooperation for the PM Fair. I wish everyone a nice evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.